Asia is growing rapidly. While economic ties deepen, new political tensions are also on the rise. This program focuses on individuals who live beyond national boundaries. The discussions aim to look for a better Asian future. Today we will focus on the transnational collaboration of citizens working towards improving the environment. Environmental pollution has now become a global issue. Many people are suffering from problems that spread across borders, such as the dispersion of air pollutants and the contamination of big rivers. An international response is necessary to tackle these problems. We went to investigate the island of Borneo, where over 80% of palm oil consumed worldwide is produced. As a result of the expansion of plantations, wildlife habitats are quickly being lost. And in Mongolia, a country with one of the largest uranium deposits in the world, nomadic tribes who live close to the mines are worried about their lives. How should residents face environmental issues that cross national borders? We will listen to the voices of those who are specifically taking action today.
Hello, this is Living Beyond Boundaries, and I'm your host, Morley Robertson. Today, we will be focusing on a topic of great concern to many and something which I am particularly interested in, which is the environment. We'll pay particular attention to Mongolia and Borneo. I'd like to introduce my three guests. Firstly, Agnes Chan, who is a singer and UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, and she will probably voice the views of the general public as well as her own. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And also, please meet Mr. Yasushi Hibi, the Vice President of an international environmental NGO. He is one big globetrotter. He's almost been everywhere in the world. Thank you very much for being with us.
It's a pleasure being here.
Okay, and also we have with us Ms. Sachi Ninomiya Lim, who is an environmental education specialist. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, first I'd like you to take a look at a photograph here. And if you can recognize what this is called yellow cake, but it's not food. It's actually roughly refined uranium.
They compress it and they enrich the uranium so that it can be further converted into a fuel level.
Great issue to be discussed among Japanese citizens nowadays, but you know, there is uranium as its energy source has not been really discussed. It's surprising.
Oh, really? Yeah, actually, I was reading a mining interest newspaper that's published in Australia online, and they were talking about how Japan's nuclear power plant restart is going to probably give a boom to their industry. And the whole article was like really optimistic. It's very different from how it's reported in Japan. Yeah.
But uranium can be dangerous for the people who live in the production areas, and these are often produced in remote areas that we don't know. We really go. Yes.
Another thing is that do indigenous people live in these zones where they're mining the uranium?
Yes, these are often produced in remote areas, very far from the cities, urban areas where indigenous people usually
live. And ethnic minorities.
What I read in some of the newspapers is that they have discovered a lot of potential in Mongolia.
Canada, Kazakhstan, and Australia make up 64% of the world's uranium production. However, it is Mongolia that has the highest rate of estimated uranium reserves. Russia, India, Canada, and France are among countries that mine uranium in Mongolia. China and Japan have also decided to make an investment recently. Competition for Mongolia's uranium is intensifying. But according to the OECD, Mongolia is expected to own uranium reserves that could be extracted with one of the cheapest costs in the world. Here's the reality on the ground. Dornogovi province is located on the southeast of Mongolia. grassy plains stretch out as far as the eye can see. Since the establishment of Mongolia's market economy during the 90s, a French company has been mining uranium here. Mr. Enk Boyanto, who works for an environmental NPO, makes frequent visits from the capital, Ulaanbaatar, in order to investigate the current situation. This is a mining technique known as ISL, which is known to contaminate groundwater.
Sulfuric acid is poured in so that uranium is extracted.
In this mining technique, solvents such as sulfuric acid are poured into the mineral deposit deep underground in order to melt the uranium, which is then collected at the ground surface in liquid form. Mud filtered from this liquid is carried to factories, where uranium is extracted and refined, turning it into fuel. Mongolian workers have been hired for low pay to do this work.
It destroys both the environment and our health.
The worksite is fully exposed. Gas emitted from the mining in uranium left on the soil has profoundly impacted the local environment. Groundwater pumped up for mining, as well as soil remaining after the process, were all carried by truck and collected in one place. Soil and water containing sulfuric acid and uranium are left behind, fully exposed to the wind. We visited a nomadic group of people that had pitched their tents 7 kilometers away from the mining site.
Өрмөнд их ашигладаг. Нэг өрмөнд л хэдэн тонн ч гэлээ ус ашигладаг гэсэн. Тэгээд өдөр шөнөгүй гүний усыг татаж авч байгаа. Энүүнтэй холбоотой байх л гэж бодчих. Чинь бол өстой 300-400 тэмээ дотор нь ороо зогсож байхад баг харагддаггүй байсан. Одоо бол зүгээр нэг тугуул явахад л харагдаж байгаа.
Around 10 households are raising roughly 1,500 livestock in this area. In recent years, they have noticed abnormal occurrences in their livestock's health.
Дэлхийн давталт нь зөвч явсанд бишүүлж ирсэн. Тэгэхэд тэр хавар манайхаас бол одоо нэлээд тийм татанхай хөлгарын татанхай хорог шиг гарч байсан. Тугуулч бас 93 тугуулгүй бас л тийм сонин болцоод туул хараад өгч байсан.
Last year, 64 livestock animals were born deformed in this area. It is frequent that lambs are born unable to walk. A baby goat born without an anus. It died soon after it was born. In Mongolia, citizens have started to campaign against uranium mining.
Шарнунтаг олборлох, хөрөнгө оруулалт хийх нэрээр хямд төсвөр түүхэн эдийн бааз болгон хувиргах орлогоо зогсоохыг бид хатуу шаардж байна. Хатуу шаардж байна.
Golomt is an environmental NPO that was established 3 years ago. It has 4,800 members, ranging from citizens to researchers, both inside and outside the country. Using social media, information is shared across borders, tracking government actions and changes in the environment. The staff work with Japanese researchers too. Ms. Ryoko Imaoka is one of them. She has been researching the depth and richness of nomadic culture in Mongolia for the last 25 years. She has attended international conferences where she reported on changes in the Mongolian nomads' environment.
Хоёрын өдрүүдэд
We are currently working on coming up with effective measures to stop uranium mining as soon as possible. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please share it with us.
Of course.
By partnering internationally, the people of Mongolia are trying their best to halt environmental destruction. Well, the situation in Mongolia does seem serious. You have any thoughts, Agnes?
I never knew that, like by mining uranium, it can actually affect the quality and quantity of groundwater and surface water, and then the soil, and that in turn affect the livelihoods of people and then kill the animals. This is very serious.
Again, the people in Japan have a great concern over the pollution caused by the nuclear plant itself, but we are not aware of these things. We have no opportunity to know these things. We have made no effort to know these things. It's probably very important for us to learn from them.
Well, it's definitely very serious. I think it also makes it very difficult, the issue very difficult, because it's very, I assume it's very difficult to kind of make the linkage between the things that are happening.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, cause and effect. It's very hard to substantiate.
And I can foresee an uphill battle in court in case it ever goes to legal issue. Okay, we are now connected with Ms. Ryoko Imaoka, who made an appearance in the report. Hello, Ms. Imaoka.
Hello.
Are there many organizations that are working for environmental protection?
The anti-nuclear movement is quite big, and there are 7 to 8 organizations. In the background, all over Mongolia, there are around 700 organizations that are working for environmental protection.
700 in Mongolia alone?
That's right. Many of them are working for the protection of small streams and rivers. In the midst of the rapid advance of mining development, nomadic people are taking action in various ways for the environment in order to protect their lives and the land.
It gives us great hope to hear that there are 700 civil organizations that are working for environmental protection. In your opinion, how much influence can those civil organizations actually have in the midst of various economical and political interests and relationships?
There is one large organization that brings the rest together. They have succeeded in stopping the development of 150 mines up until now.
I am currently teaching at a university, and I notice that there are many students who come to study from Mongolian boroughs in China. Many of them say they want to return to their homeland and work for environmental protection. I always feel that they have a strong passion to protect and preserve their traditional way of life as nomadic people. Perhaps Mongolian people carry a sense of pride in their tradition and culture, thus cultivating a sense of independence? Is there a cultural basis for their spirit of living actively and independently?
Yes, nomadic people share a certain belief that one should never dig into the earth. It is their value to ensure that their future children can also live on the land for generations to come. And that is why they go as far as living a nomadic life, moving on in order to protect the land from being damaged. Even today, a quarter of the working population are nomads. And most of Mongolia, 90% of the land, is used for nomadic farming. So this way of thinking is very strong in Mongolia. And I think that is what forms the basis of their environmental movements as well.
I also hear that you visited uranium mining sites in Mongolia.
It's not covered or fenced off or anything. It seemed like anybody could go in there.
Is the Mongolian government doing anything about this?
Yes, government workers from the Nuclear Energy Agency have gone to measure the levels of radioactivity around mining sites. They have admitted that the level is quite high around the remnant soil, but their conclusion was that it's not harmful for health. Although it's possible that the groundwater in the affected regions is contaminated, the nomads refuse to move. If they move, development will progress. and there is a fear of a nuclear waste repository being built there. Therefore, in order to prevent any more development, the people protest with not a sit-in, but a live-in.
So they are making themselves into human shields.
That's right. They're living with cattle there.
50% of Mongolia's industrial income is generated from these mines. And apparently, 40% of their export income consists of uranium. Taking such reality into consideration, it seems extremely difficult for them to stop mining. What do you think of that?
In my view, they keep mining because there are buyers. It's the international society and Japan that is causing them to mine.
I see. I would imagine that there are limits to independent civil movements in Mongolia where democratization has taken place only recently. Are there any plans on partnering with people overseas, say NGOs from around the world?
Yes, little by little, they're starting to connect with India and the Native Americans in the United States. Most recently, I presented what is happening in Mongolia at a biodiversity conference, COP12, that was held in Korea.
So we're looking at possibilities of civil actions by people like you and your partners having impact on governments and corporations.
The reason why I started facing this issue is that when I went to Fukushima as a volunteer, and the problem of nuclear waste disposal in Mongolia was exposed by the media, people in Fukushima encouraged me, saying that they can deal with Fukushima, and I, as a researcher of Mongolia, should go and work with the problems in Mongolia. The people of Fukushima really understand what Mongolian people are going through, and I hope there will be more people who are able to think about nuclear problems beyond national borders as something that matters to them.
In the midst of global political and economical interests and relationships, it must be a huge challenge to work towards changing this situation. However, like Minamata, the only way to make change happen is for the people who truly understand the situation on site to take action themselves and open up new possibilities. That is where the hope lies. I think what you are doing, Ms. Imaoka, is very valuable.
Thank you very much, Ms. Imaoka.
Thank you.
Mongolia is expected to contain one of the largest reserves of uranium ore. As a political system, it's a democracy, but not so transparent from the outside. The cost of mining uranium is very cheap so far, and also it has a low population, and all these conditions work together to pose a very attractive portfolio for international mining interests.
Yes.
But it also does seem to spell a formula for disaster. Agnes, what do you think?
I think we actually have a lot of responsibility for this because we live in cities. We are actually using, the power that they are providing.
Yeah.
So we have to feel responsible for this, and we have to really understand the issues and to really voice our opinions openly.
Mr. Hibi, what can an NGO do to, make this whole situation better?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that the NGOs can do. Of course, one, for international NGOs, can really support the local NGOs. I assume that many of the local NGOs don't have funding capacity, like technical capacity or even organizational management capacity, advocacy experiences. There are many international NGOs has already done that. Who can provide support to local NGOs. So that's one thing that the NGO sectors could do. Okay. Second, I think to really kind of work together across internationally. It doesn't just have to be the Mongolian NGOs that are working on this issue, obviously. It's a global issue. Agnes just mentioned that it's not just the issue on the ground at the production site, but it's also the responsibility of those who are actually benefiting in terms of power production and all on the other side of the equation.
So everybody's sharing responsibilities together.
Exactly.
First of all, I think the most important thing that we need is knowledge.
Yeah.
By knowledge, I mean scientific data. Like, okay, they're digging up uranium. What's wrong with that? Then we have to prove to them what's wrong with that.
This is not only about the environmental issue, but this is a problem of social structure, social issues, economic issues, environment issues.
Structure.
Yes, all together. So in terms of this, it's important to reconnect all these different issues together to recognize them as a whole, as a whole picture, and to connect again the people who are in different positions. Like in Minamata, scientists had played a big role in collecting data. So to influence the scientists' work, the people's power is very important. People need to be connected to focus on the issue as a whole picture and tell that to the scientists and to the government, to the big power.
What can the common people do? The common people, most important thing that we must do is to learn about this. First of all, you have to know about it. You know, if you don't know anything, you cannot make a good choice.
In some communities in Japan, the local production and consumption of energy has become a big movement. And some communities are trying to establish their own micro
hydro generation.
Yes,
power.
hydro generation power or on bioenergy production, biopower plant. So it's about deciding how we live.
Then actually what Japan's now doing is compensating the electricity with coal-fired power plants, which obviously we all know it's going to
add CO2.
Exactly.
And also exploit people working in the coal mine.
Exactly. and then if climate change accelerates, then what's going to happen to the people of Mongolia who deeply depend on natural land? And so it's not simple. If you do this, it goes that way. If you do that, it goes the other. It's not that simple.
Okay.
So we need to really.
According to my limited knowledge, we actually have a plan B for energy. We have natural energy. You see, which is cost you more in the future. We have to decide that. So if for issues that we don't have a plan B, don't have an alternative, I don't think we have a say. But now we have an alternative. So we should push that. We should buy clean energy, and we want to demand that. That in the end will probably help people in Mongolia.
Yeah, exactly.
As you've just seen and heard, Mongolia has many big issues. But now I'd like to move the agenda along to a case where NGOs work across national borders and they're getting concrete results.
Today, we have met people who are slowly improving the status quo by tenaciously tackling the global environmental problem while holding on to a strong personal belief. By looking at one's own circumstances while being aware of the connection between countries, we can further our understanding about the future of the environment of Asia.